Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Hope everybody's well. So, today I want to talk about gentleness, particularly when it comes to matters of religion. Right? I'll start by mentioning a hadith in Sahih Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ says, إن الرفق لا يكون في شيء إلا زانه وما نزع عن شيء إلا شانه. That gentleness, softness, or soft demeanor is such that if it is endowed in something, then it makes it beautiful, and if something is deprived of it, then it makes it ugly. And in other hadith, the Prophet ﷺ spoke about how gentleness is all good. And in another hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rafiq, He is gentle, He loves gentleness, and He gives because of gentleness more than what He gives because of harshness. Right? And I find that wording interesting because it may mean that sometimes there are legitimate reasons to be harsh. Right? It may be that your instinct to be harsh in a particular moment is morally not repugnant, so therefore you haven't committed a sin in your harshness. It's okay, it's permissible to be harsh in that situation. But Allah would, if you could have tried to use gentleness in that same situation, then Allah would have given you more out of it. Allah gives more as a result of gentleness than He gives as a result of harshness or any other thing. There's a hadith in Sahih Muslim as well. So in what context, right? So I want to speak about this in the context of parenting. When we want to impart something Islamic on our children, tell them to pray, ask them to read the Quran, etc., etc. As hard as it may be, and given that we tend to take our children for granted, it may be that it's just quicker and faster to just shout at them, be curt and strict, and tell them to, go and sit down and read their Quran, or go to the masjid for salah, or pray, or etc., etc. But actually, it's better, it's more beautiful, more productive, more conducive to the result that you and I want. And I'm the same, like it's very, very easy to just snap and be harsh. It's more conducive to the result that we want if we can be gentle. Right? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, and it is better, it is more beautiful. And you know what? Most of the times it works. The vast majority of times you will get the desired outcome. Yes, in your mind might be, our minds will tell us, if I'm strict, that's it, they'll just respond straight away. But logically, that doesn't mean if you weren't strict in the harsh sense. Strict is more neutral, actually. Strict doesn't mean you're harsh, but it doesn't mean that if you hadn't been harsh and you'd been gentle, they wouldn't have listened to you. They may well have listened to you, but in any case, the first attempt, the second, the third attempt should be a gentle one, and then something more strict, or a curt word or a strong word should come after. All right. The reason why I'm raising this and talking about it is because I don't see that. I observe a lot of parents with children, and I see a lot of harshness. And people kind of think of that as being strict. That's not being strict. That's just being nasty. Just being really unpleasant, and it leaves a really bad impression on children, particularly if you do it on religious matters, right? Your children ask you for sweet, you're not harsh, right? They ask for dinner, you're not harsh. When you sit them down for dinner, you're not harsh. But when it comes to prayer, hey, come on, it's time to do salah, get up, do your salah, or Allah marba, as they say in Bengali, which is a classic line, right? In Bengali, when we were kids, it's like, if anybody wanted you to do something religious and you weren't doing it, their way around it, their way to kind of put the fear of God in you was to say, God's gonna beat you. Allah marba. That's in Bengali. Which it's just not, first of all, it goes against that hadith, right? Allah, inna Allah rafiqun yuhibbul rifq. Allah is gentle and loves gentleness. And come on, man, it's like, what, Allah is just a stick over my, over my head. Like my whole upbringing is Allah marba, Allah marba. Allah's gonna beat you up. Allah's gonna beat you up. That's not a very good memory of Allah's name. Do you understand? When actually, normally in the Quran, most of the associations with Allah, at least the most frequent ones, the ones that Allah wants us to remember, and therefore commands us to read them and repeat them again and again, are Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. It's Rahman and Rahim, Rahman and Rahim. They're the ones that Allah wants us to repeat all the time. The Prophet said, say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim with everything important, right? Anything that's important that is not begun with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is incomplete. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded, the Prophet ﷺ said, that all salah must have Surah Fatiha in it. In Surah Fatiha, we're constantly reminded of Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and so on and so forth. Like, it's not Allah is Shadidul Iqab, and Allah does punish, and all of those things are true. Absolutely, they are. But that's not what our interaction with Allah and our knowledge of Allah and our perception of Allah is led by. But we're kind of made to feel that way because of this harshness, and we kind of project our own harshness onto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make that a lasting memory in our children's psyche and minds. Stop it. Just don't do that, right, as parents. So, and be conscious. You know what? You want to be, you need to be strict with your children. Be strict about candy. Be strict about things that are going to rot their teeth. Be strict about things that are going to make them obese. When it comes to those things, putter, eat as much as you want. A few sweets aren't going to harm you. It's okay. And when they're asking you for expensive things, you're like, yeah, I'll go ahead. Of course, my children should have whatever they want. No, that's when you're being stupid. I'm sorry, but it's like, everybody's all gentle and nice when it comes to that stuff. Do you understand? When actually, that's the time when you say, no, in moderation, and you're not going to have too many sweets, and we have to be strict about this because it's going to ruin your teeth. And when it comes to diet, eat more fruits and eat these things and that. Nobody bothers with that stuff. It's like nowadays, in Tower Hamlets, it's like every kid walks around with PFC in front of their parents. Parents are walking home with PFC instead of bags full of fruits and stuff like that. That's how we're soft with our children. Basically, feed them to death. Make them soft, kind of around the body. Sorry, I wasn't intending to kind of take the mick, but yeah, if it kind of gets the message through, then yes. Seriously, we're ruining our children. But there's no harshness when it comes to that. Come to Salah time. Oi, go to the masjid right now. And why haven't you sat down to read your Quran? And, the whole kind of God will beat you type of these types of words and phrases come out. People are really harsh when it comes to these things. Oh, and by the way, we're really harsh with children when they embarrass us. Yeah? And we kind of, we get embarrassed over stupid things. Like, your child is crying in the shopping center. You're like, stop crying, stop crying. The kid's upset. Of course it's going to cry. It's like, why are you telling it to stop crying for? It's okay to cry. Oh no, but you're getting embarrassed in front of the other shop. So what? If they think that there's something wrong with your child crying in the shopping center, they're the ones that have the problem, not you. Why do you want to give your child a hard time because it's upset about something? Take your time, deal with the issue as you would do in a normal situation. Don't pass on the pressure to the child just because you're embarrassed in front of other people. I was on the bus once, and I'll tell you this story, right? I was on the bus once, yeah, and this kid was scared to jump off the bus onto the pavement. It was like my 3-year-old only recently started to step down off the pavement. For him, that was too much height. Do you understand? So he always Abu, hold my hand. Because he was scared of it. And this kid was was scared, right? And I was right behind. And because this was happening in front of me, I noticed that there was a kind of the parent was feeling embarrassed. And then there and then this kid's getting scolded and told off because he can't do that. And eventually the kid kind of sat on his bottom and slid off of the bus, right? Because he was still scared. And I kind of wanted to say something, to just make it okay. And then there was a young girl as well in the family, and she kind of looked at me embarrassing, and I said, no, it's fine. My son does the same. But in that there was a barrage, right, kind of towards the child, like, oh, you're so stupid and blah blah blah. I was standing there thinking to myself, like, what's the big deal? And I was certain that was happening because I was standing there. Because somehow it was embarrassing that the child was doing that in front of some stranger. And because me, some nobody stranger on a bus, might be thinking, what is this kid doing? Can't even step off a bus. What does it matter? Like, what does this stranger's opinion matter? Why are you telling your child off because of some dude that you don't even know? It's silly, man. Like, so many children get told off because of that. It's like, why are you telling your kids off for stuff like that? Anyway, so I wanted to frame this in religious terms, which is why I started off with those hadiths about gentleness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. It is by the mercy of Allah that you are gentle. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you were harsh and hard-hearted, they would have dispersed from around you. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being told to be gentle. Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam were told to be gentle to Fir'aun. Your children are not Fir'auns. Alright? Now, last point. If we keep treating our children with whatever you want to call it, harshness, strictness, I don't know, hard words, etc., when it comes to matters of religion, they will associate that harshness with the religion, and that will be their memory of religion. Whenever they think of religion, it will remind them of their parents' hardness. Do you think that's going to do them any favors in the future with regards to their religiosity? I was reading this book that was a sociological study of apostate Muslims, right? Muslims who had left Islam. And one of the features, right, one of the consistent, so it was 40 young, of different ages, 40 Muslims who had left Islam. And it was a study of how they ended up leaving. Not so much why, but how they ended up leaving Islam. The book's actually called Apostates. The author's name is something Cotti. I can't remember. Simon, I think. Simon Cotti. Anyway. And one of the patterns was that this harshness that was associated with Islam. Where do you think they got that from? Did they read that in Sahih Bukhari? No, they didn't. These kids haven't read Sahih Bukhari. They got that from their parents. They associated that harshness with Islam because of how they were treated. Oh, and guess what? If you're a maktab teacher, you teach children Islam, the same thing applies, man. If their memory of reading Quran is always having to deal with your harshness as their teacher, that's what they can associate with Islam. Their memory of Islam is going to be a very, very negative one. It's going to be a memory of harshness. Yeah, you think you've taught them a bit of Quran, but you've actually done them a great disservice by giving them that terrible memory. Something to think about, brothers and sisters. Seriously, this is a serious issue. Ease up, man. Yes, the objective is to get my child to pray 5 times a day and to get them to do that in the best way possible. Not by making their life hell. Oh, mashallah, my son, my daughter prays 5 times a day. Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah. Behind it is all this monstrosity. That's no good. That's just you boasting. Alright? Do it so that it's a beautiful thing, so that your children's recollection of that and their experience of that is a good experience as well. Yes, sometimes you have to be harsh, of course. I'm not saying like be a walkover. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying let the predominant recollection of their experience of you vis-a-vis their religious practices and things that you've asked them to do that are of a religious nature, let it be a pleasant one, predominantly. Anyway, if that was helpful and valuable to you, then please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button so you get notified of future videos, inshallah. Check out our courses and support us on Patreon. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.